everybody, Jim Phillips here. Welcome to Java with Jim. I appreciate you taking a few minutes out of your day to hear what I have to say. Hopefully it'll be something that resonates with you and will cause you to think a little bit more deeply about who you are, what you're all about, and really what your full purpose is in this life that you are currently living. As you know, when I post these videos, I'm always asking for thoughts, questions, comments, topics, anything that you all might have on your mind that I can address. And I got a response to the last video that I did, and I was asked a question, and the question was around forgiveness, the whole idea of forgiveness, but more specifically, how do I implement forgiveness? Now, my first response to that is going to be one that maybe you say is too simple, but it actually is what begins anything and everything we do that we're trying to come to terms with, or trying to change, or in fact even trying to accept. And that is make a conscious decision to do. Make a conscious decision to forgive. Make a conscious decision to have forgiveness be a part of who you are. It already is a part of who you are, but a conscious decision to make forgiveness a part of that. Now, to me, there's three aspects of forgiveness that need to be put into play for the true benefit of forgiveness, which is freedom, to actually come to be. So what are those three different components or aspects of forgiveness? All right, first you've got to be forgiving. You have to be willing to forgive someone for something you believe they did to you or to someone that you love and care about. You've got to be willing to forgive them of whatever that act is. You've got to be self-forgiving. And this is the hardest one, I think, for most of us. We have to be self-forgiving in that we forgive ourselves for all those things that we continuously do to ourselves that deny our full truth, our full expression, our living in full expression of the truth of who we are. It is stopping the beating up of ourselves about everything. And it's forgiving ourselves for holding the thoughts and beliefs about ourselves that we hold and believe. And then the third component or third aspect is you got to be forgivable. You've also got to be someone who can be forgiven, that others would forgive. Now you might say, well, why do these three components have to be in play? The reason for it is that there is energy around the whole idea of forgiveness. So by being forgiving, what that means is that you have the capacity to forgive other people. You have the capacity to have compassion for them. You have the willingness to forgive them for what you believe they did. Now, an interesting part of this idea of forgiveness, when you forgive somebody, you're not condoning what they did. You're not saying it's okay, I forget it, we're good. It doesn't mean you're going to go out to dinner with them. It doesn't mean you're going to be best friends. But it means you're letting go of all of the emotions, the anger, the hate, the resentment, the fear. I mean, whatever emotions that you find are surfaced when you hold something against somebody, when you have not forgiven them for something you believe they did. Now, what I just said is an important part of this too. Forgiving them for something you believe they did. And the other interesting part of that is we believe they did it against us, when in fact it might not have been anything done against us. And in fact, most of the time it's not things done against us intentionally, but it's something that someone might have done that does impact us. And our immediate response is, how could you have done this to me? When in fact there was nothing done to you. It was something they did, but it does impact you. So being forgiving is willing to forgive them for whatever act they did. Again, it doesn't condone it. It doesn't mean it's all right. It doesn't mean that you're going to forget it. It just means that you're willing to let go of all of those energies, all those emotions, all of that stuff that basically keeps you trapped. Because if you think about it, just because you don't forgive somebody doesn't mean that their life is any worse off than, or any better off than if you do forgive them. because they're still having to live with whatever it is they did. They know what they did, they understand what they did, and they can see the impact that what they did is having on you and other people. But when you forgive them, they may feel better about themselves, but again, they still have to live with whatever it is they did. But the idea of forgiving means that we're letting go of, again, I mentioned this a few minutes ago, we're letting go of the fear, the anger, the resentment, all of those emotions that we stay stuck in. And it's the energy of those emotions that we constantly bring to the surface that we now experience that have a detrimental impact on us physically, mentally, emotionally, all of those ways that we are as we are living this life. And by releasing ourselves from that self-imposed prison, because that's what it is, it's only there because we hold on to it, because we're unwilling to let someone go. Again, we're not letting them off the hook. So that's a big part of it. The self-forgiving, and this is forgiving ourselves for having the thoughts and beliefs we have about someone else, about what we believe they did to us. And I know that sounds a bit strange, but that really is a big part of what this is. Be self-forgiving. Be self-forgiving of those thoughts and beliefs we hold. Number one, that are not true, more often than not, that are not ours. And again, it's not about condoning it. It's not about any of that. And it doesn't remove it. The experience was the experience. Whatever has happened, and that's not going to change. But we're forgiving ourselves for the thoughts and beliefs we hold about ourselves and or about another person that we feel might have wronged us in some way. We also just need to understand that we've got these thoughts that go through our head all the time. We're very demeaning of ourselves. And it is when we forgive ourselves of those thoughts and beliefs we hold, knowing that's really just part of this process of being here in physical form, that we're going to have thoughts about our limitations and maybe things that we have done that we feel that we shouldn't have done, but that we did. And again, we can't change the fact that it was done, but we can change the energy around it. We can change how we are dealing with it moving forward, knowing that whatever it was that I might have done in the past was who I was in the past, not necessarily who I am now. Who I am now is that person who is forgiving. And in forgiving, I separate myself from that, I don't like to use the word version of myself, but I think it makes more sense and people understand it, but who I was then versus who I am right now. And then I live my life now from my greater understanding from the experience that I had. And also letting go of any of the feelings and emotions and energy that are around whatever that particular act might have been. And then it's about being forgivable. It's about being a person who can be forgiven. And that means that you take responsibility, that when you do something, you show that you are sorry, you show that, for whatever reason you did what you might have done, that you are, I'm trying to think of the words that I want to express with this, but that you acknowledge that you did it, that you let others know that you didn't mean to do it. You don't want to do it. You're not going to do it again. But you have to be a person who is someone who others will forgive, because they see the truth that is coming out of you as you interact with them. They see the emotions you have around whatever the experience was. They see that you have shown some remorse about what you did. And all of that changes the energy around the whole idea of forgiveness. And once we can fully understand the three components, once we can put them all into play and consciously, I guess, move through the process of forgiveness. And think about this. Part of forgiveness, too, is having compassion for other people, for the other person. Because we don't know what they did or why they did it. We don't know what their circumstances were that might have taken them to the place where they became who they became when they did whatever it was that they did. We have to honor them for that. And then here's another really interesting and perhaps more challenging way for people to understand why people do what they do. It might be that what they did was done for your benefit. Now, it doesn't mean that whatever they did that hurt you was necessarily the what was to be gained from whatever it was that was done. But it's about bringing something to your attention. It's about you becoming more aware. It's about you becoming more conscious. And that whatever it is that they did might have been an agreement that you had for them prior to incarnation, that they would be this way towards you, that would give you that opportunity to have the experience your life, that your soul intended for you to have during this lifetime. And I know for a lot of people that's a stretch, but when you really think about all the dynamics and everything that's happening in life, for it all to fit together the way that I think that it does, that is one component, that we are all here for one another, regardless of how our relationships might play out. We're benefiting one another through every interaction that we have, good, bad, or indifferent. And I think when we understand that, being forgiving, having the ability to forgive becomes a little bit easier, because we do understand from that higher perspective, from that much higher level of consciousness, that we're in this relationship with them. We're having this interaction with them. They're doing whatever they're doing, and it will in fact benefit us because of what it allows us to see and experience about ourselves. And that's what it's all about. It's about the experience we have with ourselves. So what are the three components again? Be forgiving, be self-forgiving, and to be forgivable. And getting back to the original question, how do I implement forgiveness in my life? Decide that that is going to be a part of who you are. In fact, it's one of the 4 pillars of life that I have detailed in my book, The Key to Life, Living in Full Expression. Forgiveness is a huge part of that. And it's a hard lesson for us all to learn, but it's one that when we consciously look at it and we approach it in a way that we're going to gain the greatest benefit possible, and we see the benefit of this whole idea of forgiveness, being forgiving, being self-forgiving, and being forgivable. We see the benefits, and then we see the benefit that it provides the other person, the person to whom we are giving forgiveness. Again, it doesn't let them off the hook. It doesn't change the fact they did what they did. They've still got to live with whatever the consequences are of whatever it is they did. But we're no longer tied to it. We're no longer suffering or standing in that energy. And we're the only ones keeping ourselves in that energy by keeping whatever the event is alive through our thoughts and beliefs and emotions that we have attached to it. So forgive yourself. In forgiveness, there is freedom. And in truth, there is nothing to forgive. I hope you found this a benefit. I hope I was able to make myself clear, because it's a difficult topic to talk about. It goes into lots of different areas. But if you have questions about it, comments, if you want me to dig a little bit deeper, if you have something specific about it, please let me know. Leave it in the comments section wherever you watch this video. I always appreciate you being here. As I've said many, many times, you've got many other things you could be doing with your time, but you've chosen to spend this few minutes with me. I appreciate you. I look forward to the next time we're together. I'm Jim Phillips, and this has been Java with Jim. Take care and be well. Bye now.